Hi, everyone, and welcome to Café IBTTA. I'm Pat Jones. My guest today is Benton Tempas. Benton is the IT director for the Northwest Parkway in Broomfield, Colorado, a position he's held since 2003. Before that, he worked as the IT manager for the E470 Public Highway Authority, also in the Denver metro area. Benton is a member of the IBTTA Board of Directors. He also serves on the membership committee, the Emerging Technologies Committee, and the meeting planning group to organize the Technology Summit May 2 through 4 in Atlanta. Benton, welcome to Café IBTTA. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Pat. It's great to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Well, this is Café IBTTA, where we drink coffee and we talk about things that are interesting, relevant, uplifting, and fun. And we want to get you engaged in the conversation right away. We're going to take your questions. So using the chat function, please select the option that says all panelists and attendees. And in that chat function, tell us, what is your favorite hobby? Tell us in the chat function, what is your favorite hobby? And this is going to make sense a little bit later in the show when we talk about some of Benton's hobbies. All right, we have some cooking and family and golf, woodworking, boating, opera singing. Yeah, nice to see you, Emma.
I was going to say, I think I know who that is.
Yeah. All right, reading thrillers, dirt bikes, coaching, brewing beer. Yes, I want to be friends with you. Beer festival, Steve Bird. Yes. Running, working on the ASCE report card. Yeah, you got to do that too. All right. Thanks for these great responses, and we're going to come back to them in a little while when we talk about Benton's hobbies. Well, this is Café IBTTA, and Benton is our guest. And Benton, tell us, you've been in the toll industry a couple of decades now, maybe a little bit more. Tell us how you first entered the tolling industry, and bring us up to date and tell us what you're involved in today.
All right. Well, briefly, it was working in Chicago. I'm born and raised Colorado, but went to school out in the Midwest and worked in Chicago for a little bit, and then moved back to Colorado. Chicago's a great place to visit, but I didn't really want to live there long term. So moved back to Colorado, and you know, those things they call a newspaper had help wanted ads in them, and I pulled open one of those, looked through the help wanted ads, and just wanted to try to find something quick, short term, while I looked for something real. And there was an ad for an IT person for E470, and got a job with them, and it was just two of us in the IT department for E470. And shortly thereafter, when I started, Chess, the other gentleman who worked there, quit, and so I was the IT department back in 97, 98, I think. And so I had the ability to build the department how I wanted it, and had an amazing time. And my boss at the time was Steve Hogan, and then after I was at E470 a little bit, he left to go start the Northwest Parkway. And when they were about to open, Steve came and stole me away because he needed somebody for IT at the Northwest Parkway. So at the time, I had found my future wife at E470. She was in the marketing for E470, Stacy, which most of you know. So it wasn't bad blood for me leaving E470. I didn't want to work with my future wife. So that opportunity came up, and I came to the Northwest Parkway, and it's been, you know, I started here and I said, I'll be here for maybe 5 years and then I'll move on. And it's been, I think, 17 years now I've been here. Gone through 2 concessionaires. But it's been interesting. It's, you know, it's exciting. So that's good.
I think that's an interesting story for a lot of people in the tolling industry. And one of the things Samuel Johnson focused on as president of IBTTA last year was finding intentional ways to bring people into the tolling industry, because so many people seem to just fall in, without a lot of serious forethought. And we've got a bunch of programs to try to do that with our scholarship program and our tolling immersion program and those kinds of things. So you mentioned E470 as you're beginning. An old friend of ours, or a good friend of ours, who passed away too soon in 2010, Ed DeLozier, was executive director of E470. Tell us a little bit about the character of Ed.
Well, those of you who knew Ed will never forget him. I guess that's the best way of putting it. He full of energy. He was very charismatic. He had some great stories, and yeah, he was a real benefit to the industry. He always talked about growing up in the East Coast with peach baskets, collecting tolls. He had some pretty funny stories, but yeah, he helped move E470 along, and I was very happy to be able to work for him in the short time I did.
Yeah, he was a great guy. Now, you have an interesting feature at the Northwest Parkway, which I understand the last time we had an IBTTA meeting in Denver, you and your colleagues led a tour, and you actually have an underground tolling museum. Tell us about that and how that came to pass, Benton.
Our secret tunnel. So a number of the toll agencies have tunnels. We have one as well, and it was built to safely allow the toll collectors to go from one side of the road to the other. And we had a gentleman who was on our contract when the road was built, and it was his last job. He was retiring after this consulting gig. His name was Terry Gohagan. So some of you may know him, but he had amassed a stash of toll memorabilia that he had in his garage. And so he made us a deal, and he says, I don't know what to do with this stuff, but if I give it to you, will you showcase it? Will you build some sort of museum out of it? So what we did was at the time, one of my maintenance tech, I had him build some shelves or some cases. We bought some other case things and to showcase it all, and we put it in the tunnel. So just took some pictures the other day so you guys can kind of get a glimpse of what it looks like. This is the tunnel, and then just to entice you guys to come out here, there's some memorabilia, and a lot of it's pretty neat. Showing the rolls for the printers that they had. They had some. We have got marketing items from back in the day. We also have like the token dispensers down there on the left. I love the bumper sticker. I mean, who has seen a bumper sticker out there that says, I love toll collectors? That is a collector's item right there. But we have some tokens at the bottom. You can see we got some pennants. Took this one for my dear friend, Mr. Mark Compton, the Pennsylvania Turnpike there. I bet you guys don't have one of those out there. We've got a pennant from Maine Turnpike, Thousand Islands Bridge. We have a pennant from them. We've got some little die-cast vehicles. I think the orange ones are actually Pennsylvania too. But
nice. You've got a couple of nice comments here, Benton. Steve Bird says, the best museum on tolling memorabilia. Spent many an hour looking at all this when I was supposed to be working. Yeah.
Nice.
And another viewer says, I definitely want to see the Tunnel Museum next time I'm out there, Benton. And Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission does have them. All right, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Good.
All right. So our guest today is Benton Tempas, IT Director with the Northwest Parkway in Broomfield, Colorado. And he's just given us a tour of the secret underground tolling museum operated by the Northwest Parkway. And we are taking your questions, so please feel free to write your questions in the chat using all panelists and attendees. Well, Benton, I want to get into some of the other things that you're really passionate about. And when we spoke before, you said that renewable energy, solar and electric are really passions of yours. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's being in technology. It's always interesting, but it's just fascinating for me to be able to utilize something that's much more sustainable, much more usable in your little world. And my background, when I'm not working on the tolls, I like to go camping, and so it's great, and it always is fun to be able to be self-sustaining when you're going camping. So putting panels on the roof, generating your own power, so that your family can use the microwave when you're trying to camp. It's always, but that's a challenge. That's the fun part of it. And then for the work side, it's always looking outside the box, and you look at what you have, and we have all this right away here, and you can't build on it. It's for safety reasons, but putting panels on it, having a different use for it. So we've tried to put solar panels along the right of way when we can, and I've tried to get wind towers, but that hasn't flown yet. But still work on that one.
So I was glancing at the comments about the hobbies that people have, and there's a lot of transportation related hobbies: biking, dirt biking, there's coaching, running, model trains, lots of things related to transportation. And you have a significant hobby as well. It's remote controlled airplanes, not the drones that people use, those quadricopters or whatever you call them, but you fly remote controlled airplanes. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the drones are just too easy. I mean, nowadays they'll fly themselves. You just point it and it'll go fly itself. But yeah, as a kid, I had some gas airplanes, and so when we had kids, I kind of got back into the hobby, and now it's all electric. So they have gas, but I like the electric, obviously, and so I've got probably half a dozen airplanes ranging from a 12-inch wingspan to 6 feet wingspans. They have floats on them, so I can fly on lakes. But it's also, the excuse to Stacy is that I'm doing this to get the kids into the hobby. They still haven't taken to it, but don't tell her that.
Now, during these times of the pandemic, COVID-19, lots of lockdowns, disruptions in the way people go about their daily business, you like to start a lot of things, and maybe Stacy has some thoughts about the things that you like to start and muse on, and do any of these things get completed? Tell us a little bit about your fitful start and stop.
Some do ultimately get completed, but yes, she likes to call me the piddler. I love to piddle, and I have a barn, and we start projects. I was working on a mudroom for her. That's not completed yet. I did build some bike stands for the kids' bicycles, but I do easily get distracted and start new projects. So there are quite a number of projects around the Tempas household that take up more than the fingers digits on my hand.
There's always something to go back to, right?
There is.
Like you're never without something to do. I like that. I like that feeling. Let's return a little bit to Northwest Parkway. when you started there, Northwest Parkway was a public agency, and then it went through the concession process. Talk to us a little bit about that and some of the effects that had.
Yeah, so I took this, I have this on my wall, but I took it down. This is for Zahn. This was a gift that we all received at the 2005 annual meeting in Cleveland, Ohio.
I have one myself.
And it's beautiful, and it's actually made in Ohio. That was one of the main selling points, the solid bronze. This thing's amazing. But that is a key thing for me, because at that annual meeting was when Steve Hogan and I and a couple others took our board members to that conference. And at that conference, there were some discussions about concessions. And at the time, Northwest Parkway was not meeting its traffic study. We weren't meeting our revenue. And so Broomfield, who was the major stockholder in Northwest Parkway, started discussions after that about outside the box and how to handle the traffic and paying for the debt that they had incurred building Northwest Parkway. And so essentially that led to us going out for a lease and turning the Northwest Parkway into a concession. And that happened in 2007. And everybody knows that the next year, 2008, the economy crashed.
Yep.
So it ended up being a very good win for Broomfield because they were able to wipe clean their entire debt of the parkway when the economy crashed. And I have to give props out to that concessionaire, because Breeza was the winning concessionaire at that time, and they did a fabulous job. I'll take some credit. I was part of that, but we got really thin and lean and mean and pushed through the recession, and were able to keep the Northwest Parkway afloat. And then 10 years later, Breeza decided to sell their interest in the concession, and went out for a sale. And now we have a new owner, which is 3 investment infrastructure funds that are our shareholders now. But it was very different. It was something that at the time the concession happened, we didn't know what was going to happen. Outside the U.S., this is normal. I mean, concessions are what you do. The U.S., as most of us know, is quite different from that. So the unknown can be scary for some, but it's been very enlightening for me.
Our guest today is Benton Tempas, IT Director for the Northwest Parkway. We're taking your questions. Please write your questions in the chat function using all panelists and attendees. We'd love to hear your questions. Benton, going back to the conversation that we just had, you mentioned the 2005 annual meeting and how that was in some ways a turning point for Northwest Parkway in thinking about concessions. And there was one of the most famous general sessions that we've ever had in an IBTTA annual meeting was this session called "Your Toll Roads, Sell It or Keep It," and it was sort of a performance, a stage play, and some of the actors were Ed Delosier and Steve Snyder from Halifax
yep.
Harbor Bridges, and Michael Huerta, who I think at the time was working for what was then called ACS, State and Local Solutions. And then we also had an actor, Kelly Wick, who performed at some of our annual meetings. And they played the roles of a governor and the toll agency executive director and Mr. Moneybags. And they put on this play.
Yeah.
And then when that play ended, they sat on the stage and they began taking questions from the audience. And the remarkable thing is that the audience members began to ask questions in character. It wasn't, I'm an attendee in an IBTTA meeting. No, I'm the mother of 3 children, and you know, we're on a fixed income, and I can't afford to get my children to where they're going. And the thing I recall most is when the session was over, one of the an executive from one of the concession companies came to me and he said, you know, this session has given me a better understanding of the way the public thinks about concessions than any other report I've listened to. And I just thought that was fascinating. Your thoughts about that?
Ditto. I mean, that was it was such an amazing session that they did. Ed, I believe, was dressed up in like jail or black and white. Yeah, I can't remember what the outfit was. It was crazy, but it sparked the conversation, and it put a different light on it, and it it brought it out in the open so that people could have more honest conversations about it. And yeah, it was a great session, and it led to a lot of other ones too.
So this is a great testimonial for the arts, for the performing arts. Here in COVID, it's hard to have people on stages and in theaters performing. And my son is an actor and a musician, and he's going through a tough time. But we need to acknowledge the importance of the arts and legitimate theater, even if it happens in the context of a tolling industry annual meeting, right? Because it really helps people's awareness and understanding of what's happening in the world around them.
Totally.
Well, we have people asking about your hobby, and I want to ask you about another one of your hobbies. You have a very special automobile, and I wonder if you could tell us about that and how you came into possess this wonderful form of transportation.
Well, it's an heirloom, is really what it is, and something that I've had for I think a little over 10 years, maybe 12 years, and it was my great grandfather's when he lived in Chicago, and then it went to my uncle, one of my uncles in Massachusetts. He had it, and then my cousin had it, his son, and then I bought it from him about 10 to 12 years ago, and it's a 1960 Rolls Royce Silver Cloud 2 with about 35,000 miles on it, original miles. He didn't drive it that much because he had a number of other cars. And this picture here is an amazing picture that we took. This is my partner in life, partner in crime, Stacy, most of you know. And this was to Gateway Museum in western slope of Colorado. So we've driven it to New Mexico, we've driven it to Steamboat, we've done road trips in it, and it's a very unique car.
That is beautiful. Oh my gosh, that's the first time I've seen a picture of that, and I didn't know what to expect, but that is just a beautiful automobile. You probably have some of your colleagues in the viewing audience are salivating over that. So, all right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and we've talked about your hobby passions, your flying remote controlled airplanes, and you're driving this and restoring this Rolls Royce. So I asked you before when we had an earlier conversation, and you said one of your passions is DMVs, Departments of Motor Vehicles. So tell us a little bit about that.
You sure you want to give me the stage for
yeah,
the
we're giving you the stage.
I think Wanda's cringing right now, but yeah, this is my passion, for being in the toll industry, and it's something that I feel real passionate about going after and making sure that we stay connected with them, because at the end of the day, we need the motor vehicle. And I've always said this, we need them more than they need us. And, and most recently, I think some of us have been distracted by mass, ruck, all these new acronyms coming out, all these new technologies that are here to save us. But unfortunately, none of them can guarantee our revenue. And, we need, revenue assurance, and there will always be vehicles that drive our roads that I can see that won't sign up for Google, won't sign up for, Amazon Pay. And, I'm not discounting all of the play passes, all of the other mobility apps and items that are out there. We definitely need those, and they're a good tool in the toolbox. But at the end of the day, and the issue is that it's not something we can fix tomorrow, because motor vehicle departments are part of the government side, and they're driven by legislation. And so for us to have them move in a direction, as we all know, when it comes to government, it can take time. And so we've been, Northwest Parkway and E470 have been doing cashless AET for more than 10 years. And we've realized, I'm not going to put E470, they can state their own thing, but Northwest Parkway, our leakage when it comes to not finding the driver is something I don't like. And that's what keeps me up at night. And so, and the problem we found, and it's not, it's because of the legislation, is that the number one thing is that a lot of the motor vehicle departments, states around the country, they have where they can give out information for a violator. But when it comes to just giving out information to a driver, they can't do it legally. And when you transition from ORT or a gated system to a cashless system, you have to change your whole philosophy, which is a post-paid environment. And so now you're asking the motor vehicle for driver information to mail them a bill. Well, they can look at it as, well, you're soliciting, you're trying to, get money from them. They're not, they're not a true violator. So you get this chicken and egg issue where they're not a violator, but you can't send them a bill to, start collecting on them until you get their information. It's fun. But yeah, I've been to an AMVA conference years ago, and it was an amazing experience. They have a lot going on, and I feel like now recently with the pandemic, some of the larger players, East Coast, New York, MTA, that are doing cashless bridges, they're going to start to realize, for us, a toll is, $1.40 or whatever it is, going over a bridge, what is it, $10, $20 a trip? So those start adding up if they're driving a plate. And this was something that I took just a couple days ago. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've noticed around here is that, I'm just trying to share my screen again here. This was taken just a couple days ago in a grocery store parking lot. This is a Connecticut license plate with a registration sticker from 2007 that's driving around. Here's a temporary plate. It expired on August of last year. These are everywhere. I see these everywhere around Colorado. And I feel like now we're going to have a large influx of problems and leakage because of the pandemic, this is going to come to a head because the police aren't pulling people over that have expired plates because, they shut down the DMV for whatever reason.
And there's health issues.
Yeah, there's health issues. So they don't want to, they don't want to pull somebody over for a like Colorado, it's like a $34 ticket to have, not registered, illegally registered or, not renewed plates. It's not a big fine. And so the police don't want to just pull people over. They have better things to do. And so, but for us, it's a domino effect. And now we're getting these people that are driving the road that, you know, we can't find, and they're not now registered. So it's,
Well,
yeah.
Benton, I know that many of your colleagues in the industry share your pain. And the good news is that we're working on it as an industry. This year, our president, Mark Compton, has established a task force, a lost revenue task force, that's led by one of your colleagues in Denver there, Benton, Jessica Carson with E470, and Mark Muriello, who's now working with IBTTA. And they've already held 2 meetings this year. And Wanda reminds me that Benton is working with IBTTA to create a webinar focused on this topic. It's about time, and hopefully Anvil will partner with us and stand by for details. And while I'm telling you about details, Benton, stand by while I make a couple of announcements, and then I'm going to come back to you for some final words of wisdom. So today at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we have a CEO roundtable on climate change. This is for member toll agency CEOs. You should have received an invitation, and if you didn't, please email me and I'll make sure you get that invitation. Next week, there's no Café IBTTA, we're dark, but on February 9th and February 10th, we're having back-to-back webinars, one on road user charging on the 9th and the other on congestion pricing on the 10th. The following week, February 16 through 19, we have a webinar or a series of webinars called the Leadership Academy Virtual Experience. It's going to be an hour of programming each day to give you a taste of what the Leadership Academy is all about. And on Wednesday, February 7th, 2 weeks from today, Jim Wilson of Transcore will be our guest on Café IBTTA. He's a 2010 graduate of the Leadership Academy, and now serves as chair of the IBTTA Foundation. So that program, 4 days, the 16th through 19th, it's a great opportunity to get a taste of what the Leadership Academy is, and it's going to return in person in February of 2022 in Washington, D.C. 4 days of great programming that includes Dr. Barbara Gannon, Professor Peter Norton, and a panel of 8 executive directors reflecting on leadership and the future of tolling. Visit the IBTTA website for details on all of our programs. Well, Benton, what final words of wisdom do you have for us before we sign off?
Well, I'll keep it quick, but years ago, Ed Delosier and I were talking early on, and he said the toll industry is like the mob. Once you're in, you never get out. And it was funny, but you know, it goes back to Samuel's about family, and it's such a wonderful family, and I just want to make sure that everybody stays healthy, mentally as well as physically. So please be sure to, you know, keep moving forward and make sure you're healthy.
Benton, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been a delight. And to all our IBTTA members, thanks for all you do. Be safe, keep in touch, and we'll see you down the road. Thanks, Benton. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks, everyone.